Hello, everyone, and welcome inside the Townsquare Media Jersey Shore newsroom for the 6th episode of our Ask the Mayor series, the first virtually here as we close out 2020. I'm with Brick Township Mayor John Ducey today to discuss what some of the challenges have been for Brick, obviously including the pandemic here in 2020, and what some of the goals are for Brick in 2021, at least at this point. So, Mayor Ducey, thanks for meeting virtually for this Ask the Mayor, and thanks for taking out some time.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
So certainly going into this year, I think we saw something going on in Europe and everything as we started rolling through January and February was starting out as like a normal year here. And then all of a sudden cases started coming up in Ocean County, New Jersey, and across the country. And that kind of, I guess, deterred a lot of plans for a lot of towns, counties, shore, and kind of everything across the board here. So as cases started going up, as businesses started getting shut down by the governor, what were some of the challenges that you saw during the first wave of the pandemic and over the last couple months here in the second wave, with either businesses being forced to close because of EOs or because they don't have enough money to stay open anymore?
Yeah, so in the beginning, you really thought it was just going to be a couple weeks. Figured, everybody could survive and get through this and get things back to normal by the end of April, which obviously did not occur. It actually went the other way. And, so then it became a point of, obviously here in Town Hall, trying to keep everybody safe, trying to keep everybody healthy, as well as our police officers and our paid EMS. And that's, our main concern throughout those, April, March, April into May. And then you realize, wait, wow, well, this is really starting to affect things such as our budget for this year. We don't have the same amount of permit fees, municipal court fees, different things that are part of our budget, which are now cutting back. So, we had to figure out a way of what the heck do we got to do here in order to make sure we can make it through the year successfully. So what we did is we actually rolled out a voluntary furlough, of which we had a bunch of people did volunteer for that furlough, which helped us out financially. They did have to go on to unemployment for a period of time, employees, and they were obviously not here at work, so our numbers here, production didn't change that much. A lot of building permits started coming in at that point in time when we were finally able to get the furlough approved. So we were busy here. So we were, people who were here were overworked, and then those were at home, on furlough. Definitely helped everybody out. And then we all got back again at the end of July, things were running fairly smoothly through July, August, September, and then obviously towards the end of October, more so November, when the numbers started going up again. But our businesses, what we try to do is help them as best we could here in Brick Township. We've been hands-on with whether it's a regular small business or the restaurants, bar industry, about what the rules are, but more importantly, how can we help you? What can we do as a town to help you by allowing the outdoor dining wherever was feasible as far as safety, and waiving permit fees that we could do, the local fees, things of that nature. So, waiving, not needing planning board or board of adjustment or any of that stuff to be able to set up your outdoor dining. So just trying to keep all the businesses going as best as we can.
How difficult was it to watch all these businesses close either temporarily, early on in the pandemic, and then all these public places, parks and other businesses kind of be off limits, not from your own directive, but from the state and everything, and kind of watching people try to roll out the pandemic at home, not be able to go anywhere or do anything, go to work and kind of sit at home, either furloughed from work or just not being able to work. Just kind of watching everything unfold. What was that like? What were you thinking as kind of everything was going forward and watching residents kind of not be able to do much?
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating because that's one of the main things of my mayorship is to have township-wide events and get-togethers and have our big town still feel like a small town based upon our community events and our parks. And that's, I've redone almost all the parks so far in town since becoming mayor. And that's, my whole thing is try to keep neighborhoods together and having fun and everything. So to see all that shut down, it was, ripped a piece out of me, because that's exactly what my whole mayorship is based on. At the same time, going through the same stress in my life. So here, I'm here at town hall. And then I'd have to go home at the, not home, but I'd go I'd actually grab my son, who was in second grade at the time, go to my law office, teach him between 1 and 3, try to teach him as best I could for different subjects that he was in. And, then come right back here to town hall. So it was just, a lot of stress, a lot of stressful times for people. Still was a lot of stressful times for people. Never thought I'd have to live through anything like that. And we're still living it, 9 months later here. But yeah, watching just the, event after event get canceled, and, our parks had to be closed. Our playgrounds had to be closed for a couple weeks there until the governor, as soon as the governor gave the okay for us to open, I was all in favor of getting these things back open again. Our beaches were same thing. We closed them for a little bit as well. So that's the whole basic, like I said, one of the main pillars of my mayorship, and watching that happen led to a lot of stress in my life, for sure.
Did you see any positives or hear about any positives across town, either from residents or businesses, of people just doing what they could around Brick and helping each other out, or virtually, so from a distance and everything else? Just any kind of stories that, in a year with a lot of negatives because of the pandemic, that we can kind of look on, these moments every now and then of, okay, there's still some good going on this year.
Yeah. So we had meetings with our local church groups and things like that. And it seems like every group was doing something. Everybody had to adapt for what they were doing. So for an example is our senior services. Normally we have some senior buses that takes the seniors to, either to the mall once a week. They go to ShopRite a couple times a week, doctor's offices, everything like that. So those buses got transformed into food delivery services. So now there was nobody getting on the buses. The bus drivers were still driving. We're now driving to the people's houses, but instead of picking up people, we were now dropping off food, cleaning items, and all that stuff. So that adapted, and it was definitely fulfilling. Our senior services would also be calling the residents at home every single day. We had 800 calls that we were making every single day, and still we don't make the 800 still, but we're still at a pretty high number. Making sure everybody's okay, what do they need, things like that. We had Seeds of Service, which is located on Manalocan Road, doing unbelievable work, getting food out to all ages. I was concentrating on the seniors because that's our senior program, but for just people who are, a lot of people out of work, a lot of people struggling. And Seeds of Service, the Boy Scouts of America here in town, they were helping out by paying people's utility bills and partial rent and things like that, just to try to make everybody ends meet. There was different clubs in town that were offering free grocery delivery. So basically somebody would be at home, be able to order, if they were sick with COVID, or if they were just afraid to go to a store, order online. And then pay for it online and everything, and the clubs will go to the store, actually pick up the food, and then just deliver it and leave it for the people, because the paid services were all booked up and things like that. But sometimes you had that ability. So there was a lot of things going on here, in town that was different. People constantly adapted. The Arc of New Jersey here in New Jersey, here in Brick, they adapted as well, and with their services, doing more, everything was home-based as opposed to getting together. And that was the main thing, just trying to make sure you're still in contact with everybody, and what do you need, and figure out a way how to do it.
In looking ahead to 2021, the best you can at this point, and kind of with what happened in 2020 in terms of the local economy, anything across the township itself, are you concerned about anything lying ahead financially for the town in terms of putting together the budget for 2021, or preparing for any projects or any road work that needs to be taking place and so forth?
Roads are fine. They're always they've been going the whole time. But our former food town site, which is going to turn into a sports dome and some stores at some point, that was delayed. Unfortunately, that should have been done by this by the end of this year in 2020. But then what happened is the DEP closed and CAFRA closed, so they didn't review our application for so long, and then it finally got approved in October. So definitely at the end of by 2021, that sports dome will be there. And I don't think the stores up front will be the stores or anything, but the sports dome is more important in my mind than the stores, of course. But I'm not the owner of the store, so I'm sure the owner of the store thinks those are important too. But for me, it's a sports dome, another family activity to do together and enjoy and be healthy. So that's something that was delayed. But and then the other thing is you don't know what type of tax appeals could come in. Luckily here in Brick, we don't have that many vacancies. We lost 3 restaurants during the pandemic, but out of those 3 restaurants, 1 is already filled. The building is filled already. Another one has a lease signed, so they'll be moving in sometime in 2021. And then the third one, hopefully that building will get filled as well. So we replaced 2 out of 3, which is a good thing. It's bad that we lost 3, but luckily 2 others that opened. And then we actually recently had a bunch of other grand openings that have occurred, which is all good. Now all those things were delayed. So there was a restaurant in town called Manera's. They were supposed to have their ribbon cutting. I believe it was March 16th or 17th. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't 18th or 19th. It was right after St. Patrick's Day. They just had it, at the end of September, beginning of October. So a lot of things got delayed. Corrado's, for example, they were supposed to open before Thanksgiving of this year. They're not opening till March of 2021. Lidl, on the other hand, opened early. They weren't supposed to open until 2021. They opened about a week ago. So it's hit or miss. So luckily we don't have the empty spots, but those tax appeals, if we're forced to shut down again, if the governor shuts the businesses down again, I could see a lot more businesses going out of, they survived the first round. There was the different loans, there was the different grant programs, people stayed afloat. And then when people were able to go out, either getting takeout for a restaurant or go out and get to these businesses, a lot of our residents did and really supported them. Where if that comes up again, I don't know if some of these small businesses can survive again. They survived for 3-4 months without income. Can they do it again? I don't know. And then if those stores end up being empty and some of these storefronts that we've filled over all these last 7 years start emptying out, then you could have these tax appeals where that could hurt financially the town.
Sort of to that point, in looking ahead to next year, and during the second wave, as cases are going up and as the vaccine is starting to get distributed to healthcare workers and everything, and then Governor Murphy is saying hopefully by April, May, it'll be available to all of us as well. Is there some level of optimism that if the vaccine gets here sooner, and that at some point cases aren't climbing as much and they're starting to go down, that you'll be able to do more earlier in Brick come next year, or is it too kind of early to predict that?
It seems like it's a little early to predict that. We are scheduling everything as we normally do. So we have already picked out the bands for Summerfest for our July shows. We're expecting to be back to normal. Whether or not we are, we don't know, or what restrictions will still be there. So, right. For example, the past summer, we did have to cancel Summerfest. Summerfest gets 5,000 to 8,000 people, but we still held our Traders Cove concerts. Our Traders Cove concerts usually get 200 to 300, 400. Something like that. So the restrictions that were in place at the time, we couldn't hold the Summerfest, or we could, and we have to do a lottery and have a lot of unhappy people. But we still did all of our Traders Cove concerts. They happened every week, just as scheduled, and went forward, and were enjoyable events. So we didn't have to cancel a lot, just the big things: the Summerfest, the Fall Fest, and then some of our sports programs for the kids. So hopefully all that will be back on track for 2021. Right now we have basketball scheduled for the beginning of January. We just got to see if we can stick with it or not.
Fingers crossed for everything that whatever's got to happen, all heads in a positive direction for everybody, you know, health-wise, financially, for the economy and everything. Do you have any goals in mind? Obviously, you know, just kind of putting goals ahead here, and even assuming that by the summertime we're back to a somewhat level of normalcy in terms of being able to go places and do things, and with people being vaccinated and everything, are there some things that you want to try and accomplish in Brick in 2021, kind of regardless of COVID or not, just some things that you want to try to do, hopefully at some point?
Yep, get that sports dome built and opened and ribbon cut before the end of next year for sure is a major one. We just have a couple steps left. One still does involve the state, unfortunately. It's the NJDOT. We have to get some approvals for some outfall pipes, and then the county planning board, and then everything else is in Brick's hands, so we can get that done within a few weeks. So once we get those two things done, you know, other things I just want to, you know, we're going to keep up with our flood. We have a huge flooding problem here in town, and it's not from rain. It's actually from tide water that comes up. So the way our flooding that affects us, we don't have anything, you know, from rain basically. We had a big storm one time a couple years ago, you know, that impacted Greenbrier and some other places in town, but that was just a lot of water that came down at once. So our floods happen at high tides, especially with full moons and with wind. The water comes up from the storm drains from the bay. So we're gonna spend a lot of money, probably close to $1.5 million, maybe $2 million on elevating roadways around town, so that if emergencies do happen, people would be able to get out and would keep the roadways clear. So that's one of our goals, is to keep on with that flooding. We're also installing these check valves into these storm drains. So the check valves, we finally found one that worked. We've had check valves in the past, but this new one actually works. And we just recently, you know, over the past, I would say 10 weeks, we've installed 11 of them around town. And we hear from the residents saying these things are great. This is great. So some parts of town only needs that check valve, and they're good to go. Halsey Drive, for example, is one. But some of the others, you know, you need to do all the, you know, elevate the roads. We changed our ordinance to have bigger bulkheads. So flooding is definitely an issue that we're going to keep, you know, a goal to, you know, we're not going to be able to resolve flooding. It's not something that you can.
Why not?
Beyond Moses parting the Dead Sea.
There you go.
That's not going to happen in Brick with the Barnegat Bay, I don't think. So you know, but at least make people's lives a little easier, not have the salt water, because it's salt water too. It ruins cars. It's
Right.
not rainwater. Rainwater, yeah, you drive through, you might have some problem with some water getting in, obviously some wires getting wet in your car and stuff. But driving through once a month, twice a month, that's what, you know, high tides with these full moons happen once or twice a month, depending on the month. And it's salt water. It actually, you know, it does some destruction to the cars.
And then kind of to how much it snows and rock salt and sand that gets put on the roads too, that kind of eats away at the cars too.
Yeah. We haven't had snow here, but we've had rock salt down the last couple of years. Luckily, we've gone the past 2 winters without using our plows at all, which was helpful, because we actually had a fairly large storm, where we usually call it a snow emergency fund.
Mhm.
But this year, what that money was, you don't have to use it for snow, but that's normally what we would use it for. I mean, obviously, if Sandy would come, we would be able to use it for something like that.
Right.
But the you know, for the law, it allows funds to be used for things such as COVID. So we had our snow emergency fund, which was, you know, pretty much spent a lot this year in 2020 on the COVID situation.
I guess we'll see what happens over the next couple months in terms of snow. I know we got some possible predictions coming up. I guess, you know, I have this conversation with a few people lately. Just, you know, it's been a couple of years or so since we've had, you know, like a good snow, not just like, you know, a couple inches here and there, just like several inches, a foot or so. So I guess we'll see what happens in the next couple weeks, and then early 2021 in terms of snow and everything. But I guess, you know, we were talking earlier, just, you know, it's fun to watch come down. It's fun, especially if you're a kid, you know, you don't have to go to school because of snow. But I guess if you're the ones cleaning it up and picking it up, it's not as much fun.
Yep. Exactly. Or if you're in charge of having plows out there.
Yeah,
We have a lot of roadways in Brick. So it's actually, if you took all the roads in Brick, and I'm not talking about state highways and county roads and all
right.
that, just the roads that the town owns, and you just put them in one straight line, it goes from here past Hilton Head, South Carolina. So when people get upset and they're like, oh, it's, the snow stopped 2 hours ago, my road's not cleared. I'm like, well, if you got into a truck and you just drove from here to Hilton Head, South Carolina, how far would you be? Oh, I'd be in Delaware. I'm like, that's where the plows are about. Think about that.
Takes a long time.
Yeah, it takes some time to plow roads.
To close out here, and I like to ask this of all the mayors, and then on the Ask the Chief show, their opinion as well. But in all the years you've been mayor of Brick, and then being in Brick, what are some of the best parts of being the mayor of Brick, and then just kind of being in Brick on a daily basis? What makes Brick, such a great place to live and to work?
It's a great community, family town. So being able to do activities, we have so much to do here. We have the most waterfront property in the state of New Jersey, which is awesome, including with the rivers and the bay, the ocean front, and all the lagoons we have. So to be able to be the mayor of this town, it's great. And all the community events, people get excited about football, whether it's football games, any type of, the Summerfest series, the Fall Fest. This year in 2020, I wanted to do a Winter Fest, but we would have been planning out in the June, July. It never even took off, but we wanted to have something else to add. Just because it's such a great thing. One of the things I love about being mayor is being able to help people. The most frustrating thing is when I can't help people. So I just mentioned state roads and county roads a little bit. There's a lot of times where, you get a complaint. It's something as simple as like a pothole on it, but it's a county road. And I'm like, oh, we're not allowed to touch it. I'll put in a request, but sometimes it helps if the residents do the request because they hear from me all the time because everybody contacts me and then I'm telling them about potholes and they might not take it as serious as opposed to a resident calling. And then you get the news is like, oh, it's still there. It's 10 days later. It's still there. And I was like, oh, I wish I could fill it. Like our guys get out. We have a 48-hour, with potholes here in town, but not every branch of government has the same. So whether it's state, county, whatever the case may be. So not being able to help, that's the most frustrating thing. And a lot of things really are controlled by other entities, whether it's the MUA, the schools, the county, the state. A lot of times with the state funding with schools, I get a lot of complaints about what can you do? Why can't you fund more? Our taxes went up. So there's a state law that our taxes have to go up for 8 straight years here in Brick at the 2% cap, school board. I get the complaint of like, why is my taxes going up? Well, there's a state law that the legislature passed that our taxes have to be raised here, our school portion, 2%, the maximum it can be every single year. And you still got 7 more years to go of it. And people are like, oh, wow, that's, it's horrendous. I'm like, yes, it is. I don't have any kids in the school. That's the system we have. What can you do about it? I would love to revamp the whole system. It should be user fees. Everything shouldn't be based on property taxes. Let's look at some other states and what they do. They don't base everything on property taxes, but that's what we do in New Jersey until they revamp the whole system. We're stuck with it. Whether you have kids, you don't have kids in the system, whatever it is, we're all paying for the schools. So.
I guess we could dream for, better financial and tax situations for residents.
Yeah, exactly. It's always, I go to the League of Municipalities every year. This year was virtual, but every other year it's in Atlantic City. And I sit in the same seminar every year. And there's League of Municipalities in November, and there's a mayor's one, New Jersey Conference of Mayors in May. And the same panel is up there. I don't want to say who any of them are, but they're some of the more famous senators and assemblymen from around the state. And they say, well, we're going to get to revamping this, and we have this roadway to this and a pathway to this, and nothing ever happens. It's so frustrating.
Oh, gotta love it.
Yep.
Mayor Ducey, thanks for taking out some time and for meeting virtually here for this episode of Ask the Mayor, for taking out the time today to discuss 2020 and looking ahead to 2021. And certainly, I think we could both agree, and as a lot of other people, hoping for a better 2021 across the board for people's health, people's, finances, the economy, businesses, that, 2021 will be a year where we could say, hey, we came all the way back, we recovered, and, here we are now.
Yep. We're always resilient. We're resilient here in Brick Township with Sandy. We're resilient as Americans with 9/11, and we'll get through this as well. And 2021 will be a special year for all of us.
Appreciate that, Mayor, and continue to do all the work you do for the Township of Brick and the community.
Thanks for having me on.
That's Brick Township Mayor John Ducey. I'm Vin Ebenau here in the Townsquare Media Jersey Shore newsroom for the 6th episode of Ask the Mayor. You can check our Facebook page and our 92.7 WOBM YouTube channel for all the previous episodes of Ask the Mayor, as well as our Ask the Chief program. Make sure you download our app as well, and stay tuned for the next announcement of Ask the Mayor. Once again, for Brick Township Mayor John Ducey, I'm Vin Ebenau. Stay safe, stay warm this winter, and we'll see you soon.